want to get your attention with this just a little bit, because if you can hold a thought without contradicting it for as little as 17 seconds, at that 17-second mark, by law of attraction, another thought of the same vibrational equivalency will join it. And when those two thoughts join, they literally merge. It's a coalescing, it's a coming together, it's a blending. When those two thoughts come together because they are vibrationally same, there is an energy that is expended. In other words, it's like a combustion of the two thoughts joining. And when that combustion occurs, there's power in it. Power that's hard to measure in physical terms, but from our non-physical perspective, we can tell you it's the power that is about what you work in your human action expenditure of energy of about 2,000 man-hours or woman-hours. Esther said, Abraham, that does not seem possible, that 17 seconds would bring another thought, that when they join, there would be an energy explosion that has that kind of power. And we say the reason most of you don't realize that is because it is a rare one of you who holds a pure thought for 17 seconds. Most of you don't make it through a whole sentence without contradicting the vibration of your desire. You'll say, I want more money. I'm so tired of the struggle. So you didn't even make 5 seconds before you sabotaged it. You see what we're getting at? But if you can manage to hold yourself in this feeling place of what you are wanting for as short a time as 17 seconds, there's an explosion that takes place that is equivalent to 2,000 action hours. Now, if you can manage to maintain that for another 17 seconds, which takes you across the 34-second mark, you can multiply that by 10. That's equivalent to 20,000 action hours. If you can cross the 51-second mark, you can multiply that by 10 again. That's 200,000 action hours. If you can cross the 68-second mark, you can multiply by 10 again. Now we're talking over 2 million action hour equivalent. This is a leverage that most of you see it happening all the time. There will be someone sitting off in some leisurely state of living, creating magnificently with what looks to you like no effort at all, while you are working your brains out, getting nowhere, and what you say instead is there is injustice, or it's karma, or his mother donated it to him, or he inherited it. Your assumption is that he has greater deservability than you do, and we say it isn't any of that. He's learned to leverage the energy of the universe by holding his thoughts consistent with his desire, you see. That's all there is to it. And so what you want to do is begin to show yourself or practice. We offer many processes. If you've been listening to us for any length of time, you've discovered that we are endless spewers of processes. And every one of them is offered to assist you in holding your vibration more in harmony with your desire, and certainly more in harmony with your core. Because as you do that, those things that you are wanting must come to you. It is law. Now let's choose specifically here if you want to. Talk to us about what it is you are wanting. Just ramble a little bit. Talk about your desire.
Well, I have two that are interwoven. One is that I have maybe 3 desires and I don't know which one to focus on.
Doesn't matter. It only takes 17 seconds.
Okay.
You get the sense of what, in other words, that is spoken like a person who believes they only have 24 hours in a day and it takes all this action to make things happen. We want you to start thinking like someone who has an infinite number of 17 seconds. You could have 1,000 things on your plate and do them all effectively if you understood that, you see.
Okay.
So speak them.
Okay, one is that I do artwork and I'd like to see it really go places more than it is. I'd like to write a book, and I also like to do healing work.
All right, now take any one of those subjects, the one that appeals to you most, doesn't matter.
That's what I don't know, but I'll take the artwork.
Talk about it. In other words, and your goal here is to just express your desire.
Okay.
Just ramble a little bit.
Okay, I'd like to create artwork that touches people in a way that they're moved enough to want to own it, and that when they do own it, it continues to please them and give them a good feeling. And I'd like there to be a lot of those people so that the artwork is well known.
Good. Now stop there just for a moment, and we just want to chew with those who are hearing, because often it's a lot easier to hear what someone else is doing than to hear because what you're doing is so familiar to you, you often cannot hear it. And so we just want to ask you, from what you heard positive sounding words coming from her. Did she feel to you like she is in the feeling place of the success? Did she feel to you like she's identified that she wants it, but she's not talking about it from a place of being there yet. In other words, you could hear desire/yearning.
Right.
Now, which is just fine. It's the way everybody is in the beginning of their deciding what they are wanting. But now our goal together is to help you find vibrational harmony with your own desire, which means, in other words, what it sounded like, and we're just going to speak it in some sort of blunt terms so that you can really hear it, and for the benefit of others who will be sitting on the hot seat soon too, is that when you are talking about what you are wanting from a place of not having it, what's sort of screaming to the universe is, I don't have it yet. It sounds like, it feels like to you, that you're on the outside of this desire looking in at it. In other words, and what we want you to do, and we'll show you how to do it easily, want to show you how to get on the inside of this so that you're describing what you want from being in there with it. You get the sense of what we're talking? In other words, because you have to emit to the universe a vibration that matches what you want, or the universe, as benevolent and loving as it is, cannot give it to you. Yeah. So just ramble a little bit more about what it would feel like, or what it feels like to already be there. In other words, now, it's going to be a little tricky in the beginning because most of you have really practiced the verbiage about not being there. In other words, if we ask you why it's not happening, you could write volumes about it. But what we want you to do is begin articulating about what that feels like. And we remind you of the sentence that's going to serve you really well. Use it often over the next several days. What does it feel like to be in that place of success? What does it feel like to be the creator of these magnificent designs? What does it feel like to have my work in demand? What does it feel like to go to prestigious places and see my work hanging there? What does it feel like to have more money than I have any sensible use for? You get the sense of what we're talking about? So just ramble a little bit from what you've heard about what you want.
Well, I think it would feel really good to see my work in places that were valuable to other people, and
Have you ever sold any of your work?
I have.
And can you remember the last incident that was really pleasing to you?
Yes, it's a long time ago. I can remember it.
Now you see, that's all right. But in other words, what we were wanting to do is to take you into the feeling place of that. But you took a detour.
Yes.
In other words, by saying it was a long time ago. In other words, Abraham, don't try to cheer me up. Things are not going well. Try to take yourself back to that. Talk to us a little bit about a painting that you sold and how it felt. Just ramble. Give us some details.
I sold a painting kind of unexpectedly. It was in a show, and I was new and feeling that I didn't have much value as a painter, and everyone liked it, and the newspaper came and wrote about it, and it was pretty exciting. And then I sold a few more that time too.
Now, did you actually see the person that bought it?
Yes.
And do you remember standing back and watching that person taking it in?
Yes.
And do you remember seeing that person's appreciation for it?
Yes.
Do you remember the feeling of exhilaration when you realized you'd created something that had pleased someone else? And did the person pay for it right then and there?
Yes, they went over some. They didn't pay me, but they paid.
And did the dollars come eventually to you?
Yes, very soon after.
And so now, as you're remembering that, can you feel her now more of a match to the desire that she stated earlier? In other words, just with a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, you've managed to bring yourself to a vision of some. In other words, a minute ago you said, I want, from a place that didn't match it. With a little bit of effort, you're now saying, I want, from a place that's in vibrational harmony with it. Get the sense of what we're talking about? So now, with this little bit of effort, which was a bit more than 68 seconds of launching, you're going to start seeing things move. In other words, with just that little bit of effort, you have managed to bring yourself enough into vibrational harmony with your own desire that there will be absolute physical manifestation, evidence of your work.
Wonderful.
Watch for it. And then the next thing that will happen to you is when you realize how little time it took you to do that, you'll feel more inspired to give more attention, more